We're diving into this paper today, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
It's about how just one single event,
Yeah.
like one horrific event,
Uh-huh.
can spark so much change.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this paper dives into that idea
Yeah.
using the story of Emmett Till.
Right.
So for our listeners who might not be familiar,
Uh-huh.
can you give us a little bit of background?
Sure. So this is 1955,
Okay.
and racial tensions are incredibly high, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And you have Emmett Till. He's just a 14-year-old kid
Yeah.
visiting family in Mississippi from Chicago.
Okay.
And he's accused of, either whistling at
Uh-huh.
or flirting with a white woman
Okay.
in a grocery store.
In a grocery store.
Yeah. And something like that today,
Right.
might lead to a dirty look, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
But back then, this was a very, very serious accusation
Oh, yeah.
that ultimately led to his kidnapping,
Okay.
a brutal beating, and then eventually murder.
Wow.
His body was found in the Tallahatchie River.
And then it was his mother, Mamie Till Mobley,
Right.
who made this incredibly brave decision to have an open casket funeral.
Precisely. She wanted the world to see
Yeah.
what had been done to her son.
Uh-huh.
This was absolutely not just a moment of personal grief.
Right.
This was a very deliberate act
Okay.
to confront the entire nation
Wow.
with the reality of racial violence.
Yeah, and this paper, it talks about the photographs of Emmett Till's body
Yeah.
as like a turning point.
Uh-huh.
Why were they so uniquely powerful?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, they transcended,
Yeah.
all of these arguments about segregation that were happening like in courtrooms and legislatures.
Right, it was abstract at that point.
Very abstract. Yeah. And this image, it made the human cost of racism
Yeah.
undeniably real. I mean, you couldn't look away.
Right.
It forced people to see it.
Yeah.
It created a visceral, emotional connection that words simply couldn't convey, and that emotional connection,
Yeah.
that is what spurred people to action.
And for his mother to make that decision,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
It took immense courage,
Yeah.
and it played a crucial role
Okay.
in really galvanizing the civil rights movement.
Okay.
These images, they were circulated so widely by Black-owned newspapers
Oh, yeah.
like Jet and the Chicago Defender,
Okay.
and they really became this rallying cry for justice.
The paper even contrasts this with like earlier social movements
Right.
where the media's reach was so much more limited.
Exactly. Think about movements before,
Yeah.
widespread photography or radio or television information traveled slowly back then.
Yeah.
And it was very, very easy to control the narrative.
Right.
But in Emmett Till's case,
Yeah.
the image was so powerful, so undeniable,
Right.
that it just completely transcended those limitations.
It created this
Yeah.
shared experience of horror and
Right.
outrage. And I think the paper calls it like...
Big bang moment.
Exactly. And Castells,
Okay.
who's this prominent sociologist,
Okay.
he argues that these big bang moments,
Mm-hmm.
they are absolutely essential
Okay.
for collective action.
Yeah.
Even for, you think about the moments that have sparked your own activism.
Yeah.
Was it a news story,
Huh?
a personal encounter,
Yeah.
a piece of art that you saw?
Yeah.
These moments of sudden realization, they shape our understanding of the world and then often spurs to action.
And it wasn't just the image itself.
Right.
The timing played a role, too.
Absolutely.
Because this happened just a year after the Brown v. Board of Education ruling.
Right. You have this moment of incredible hope and progress.
Yeah.
With the Brown decision declaring segregation in public schools unconstitutional.
Yeah.
But then immediately following that,
Yeah.
you have this brutal act
Right.
of racist violence.
It's like bittersweet.
It's this landmark victory,
Yeah.
but then immediately followed by such a horrific act.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a reminder
Yeah.
that progress isn't always linear.
Exactly.
So how did that back and forth between like hope and violence, how did that shape the burgeoning civil rights movement at the time?
The Brown ruling, you see, that represented a legal victory.
Okay.
But Emmett Till's murder
Yeah.
was a stark reminder that legal change does not equate to social change.
Right.
And this juxtaposition,
Yeah.
it fueled a sense of urgency
Yes, yeah.
and made it very clear that the fight for equality was far from over.
Yeah.
I mean, it really made people realize that just changing the laws
Yeah.
It wasn't enough.
Right.
They had to change hearts and minds too.
And the paper argues that this impact of the image, it was amplified by the media landscape at the time.
Right.
So let's dive into that a little bit.
Okay.
You mentioned Black-owned newspapers. What was so important about them?
Well, at the time, mainstream media, they often downplayed or even completely ignored racial violence.
Yeah.
So Black-owned newspapers, like we mentioned Jet, the Chicago Defender, they played a really crucial role in getting those photographs out there of Emmett Till and telling his story truthfully.
So it was about control of the narrative.
Exactly. It gave a platform for Black voices and perspectives, which were largely excluded from mainstream media.
Right.
And so they ensured that Emmett Till's story was not silenced.
Yeah.
Or sanitized.
It makes me think about today, how we navigate this constant flood of images online.
Right.
And do we have a responsibility to look even when it's painful?
It's a crucial question.
Especially when it comes to these issues of injustice.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, what do you think?
It's a powerful reminder that images can be used to expose injustice and really inspire action. But they also require careful consideration. Right. We have to think critically about the context, the source, the potential impact of the images that we share and that we consume.
And the paper also talks about the impact of the Brown v. Board of Education ruling, which had just happened the year before. So how did that legal victory kind of set the stage for the outrage that was sparked by Emmett Till's murder?
I mean, the ruling was obviously a major turning point. But it faced really fierce resistance, particularly in the South. A lot of people saw it as a threat to the existing social order.
Right.
And sadly, violence against Black people actually increased.
Wow.
In the years following that ruling.
So the Brown decision, raised the stakes and created this powder keg situation.
Yeah, there was hope for change, but there was also this very deep-seated fear and anger among those who wanted to maintain that status quo.
Right.
So Emmett Till's murder, it became a flashpoint. It ignited that powder keg.
Wow.
And it tragically demonstrated just how urgent the need was for further action and social change.
It's a reminder that legal rulings, they're important, of course.
They are.
But they don't automatically translate into societal change.
Right. It takes a shift in attitudes, beliefs, behaviors.
Right.
And sometimes it takes a very powerful image, a story that resonates on a deeply human level to spark that shift.
We've been talking about how the Open-Casket, drew people in, forced them to confront the horrors of racism.
Absolutely.
The paper also points to the Montgomery bus boycott, which began just a few months after Emmett Till's murder. So what was the connection there?
Well, Rosa Parks, who was a key figure in that boycott, she later said that she thought about Emmett Till when she refused to give up her seat on the bus.
Whoa.
And his story really became a symbol of the injustice that they were fighting against.
Yeah, and it created this collective sense of outrage.
Yes, and the need to take a stand.
It's amazing to think that this single event helped spark a movement that changed the course of history.
Emmett Till's story became a catalyst. The image, the outrage, the timing. All these factors converged to create this big bang moment that reverberated through the nation.
Wow.
And fueled that fight for civil rights.
It speaks to the potential for even the most horrific events to lead to positive change.
It's a testament to the human spirit's ability. To find hope and purpose, even in the face of immense tragedy.
The paper also connects the dots between that limited reach of media in past movements and the explosive impact of Till's story. It makes you wonder, how would this have played out differently in the age of Twitter and TikTok?
It's fascinating to consider because today information spreads at lightning speed. You think about citizen journalism. The ability to live stream events as they're happening. I mean, we are constantly exposed to this stream of images and information.
It's both exciting and daunting, right?
It is.
Like, potential to reach a wider audience and galvanize support quickly is incredible. But there's also the risk of information overload. And just becoming desensitized to the constant barrage
of images
and stories. So how do we make sure these stories don't get lost in the noise?
I think that's where critical thinking and media literacy become crucial.
Okay.
We need to be discerning fact from fiction. Recognize bias. Think critically about the information we're consuming.
Right.
It's not just about seeing. It's about understanding, analyzing, engaging.
It feels like the legacy of Emmett Till and the power of that Open-Casket photo. It really poses a challenge to us.
It does.
We have this instant access to so much information.
We do.
But we also need to take responsibility for how we engage with it.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to be informed consumers and responsible sharers of information.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Okay.
Seek out diverse perspectives. Be mindful of the impact of our words and our actions.
It's a reminder that even in the digital age, images, they retain that power to move, to inspire.
Absolutely.
And to provoke action.
They do.
So it's up to us to use that power for good.
Yeah. It really is a lot to consider. And it makes me think about the images, that will become the defining symbols of our time.
Right.
Like, what stories will future generations look back on as those catalysts for change?
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in this era of unprecedented visual documentation.
Right.
Every single day, countless images are captured.
Shared documenting moments of, joy, sorrow, triumph, injustice. So which ones will stand the test of time?
Right.
Which ones will have that power to shape hearts and minds for generations to come?
And we talked about the responsibility to engage with difficult images. But what about the images that we choose not to see?
Right.
The stories that we ignore or avoid because they make us uncomfortable. Like, don't we also have a responsibility
I think so.
to engage with those as well?
Absolutely. I think it's easy to turn away from things that challenge our worldview or, make us feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But true progress, true understanding, it requires us to lean into those moments of discomfort, to confront those difficult truths, to grapple with the complexities of the world around us.
It's about being an active participant, not just a passive observer.
Exactly. And recognizing that we're not just consumers of information, but we're also shapers of it.
Right.
The choices that we make about what we see, what we share, what we engage with, they all contribute to shaping the narrative of our time.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive.
It has.
So thank you so much for guiding us through this complex and important topic.
My pleasure. It's been great talking with you.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
On this deep dive into the legacy of Emmett Till and the power of images to spark change.
Absolutely.
We hope this conversation has encouraged you to think critically about the media you consume, the stories you engage with, and the role that you play in shaping the world around you.